Doug joined the Rotary Club of Prospect in 1991 and was president from 95-96. He was elected president again in 2012 and 13, so he has a wealth of experience for anyone who'd like to know about how Rotary works. He's held directorships on various club committees during the last 26 years. He was GSE VTT, which means vocational training. I sometimes trip over some of these acronyms that we have, and I'm sure he can expand on them. Team leader to Kansas, USA in 2011, and chair of VTT Scholarships Committee in 2013 and 14. Most prominently in my mind is that he was district governor of 9500, our district, in 2015-16. Currently, Doug's the district chair of the Rotary Foundation. More recently was appointed assistant zone coordinator, so he is very busy. Doug and his wife Lynn, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, enjoy Rotary and many friends they've made during their Rotary journey, and they plan to continue the journey while making a positive impact on the lives of those less fortunate. Please welcome Doug Layng.
Thank you, Lisa, for that kind introduction. Sometimes I'm amazed at how long I've been in Rotary, but after hearing some of the announcements today that I'm only just a kid, with some long-serving Rotarians in our district. I'd like to thank President Darcy Walsh and the members of the Rotary Club of Adelaide for this opportunity to speak to you. I'd also like to welcome the new Rotarians to your club. I think it's done a wonderful job over this last 12 months of attracting like-minded people to join your club. The first time I spoke here, I was a little intimidated by the numbers of people that were here, but I'm getting used to it. And after having been to Atlanta to the Rotary International Convention and sitting in a room with 15,000 people listening to the speakers there, I don't think I have a problem at all. So my presentation will be predominantly the foundation with a few asides from the International Convention. I've started with the first slide. Reg gave me some instructions. Here we are. Turn it on. I put up the first slide. How many in the room have heard a presentation about the Rotary Foundation previously? How many are expecting a whole bunch of slides and jargon and graphs and well, you're probably going to be disappointed. I just wanted to start out is that I put on the bottom of this that it's our charity. And that's one of the things that I find as I go around our district and talk to other Rotarians is that there seems to be a misunderstanding about our charity, the Rotary Foundation. And I hope I can clear up some of those things and let you know what the foundation does and why it's so special. And you heard from President Darcy today to say that the 4 clubs, 2 districts, 1 team, which has just received a global grant for some work in maternal and health and childcare and education and literacy in the Philippines, is a direct result of money coming back that has been donated by Rotarians to come back for Rotarians to do good work in the world. So that's about as simple as it gets, is that our charity gives us the money back to do good work in the world. Whereas charities that are supported by Rotary clubs, when you give them the check, they're doing the work they want to do, not the work we necessarily want them to do. So I think there's a subtle difference in there about what happens. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that Charity Navigator, a charity rating system association in the United States, has given the Rotary Foundation a 4-star rating, which is the highest international rating that a charity can get, and I think we should be very proud of that. The other thing is that 91% or 91 cents in the dollar of every dollar donated actually goes to the programs. The small bit that's left over is used to buy resources, manuals and publications, and assistance with other opportunities within the Rotary Foundation. The foundation, I put this slide in right at the start to help describe how the money comes back. Every 3rd year, money that's donated by clubs in our district actually comes back into our district in the form of 2 amounts of money. The one on the right-hand, your left-hand side, we're using $1,000 as an example just to keep the numbers smooth. The one that's got the numbers, Lisa will love this, DDF, is district designated funds. That's a sum of money that comes back to the district to administer for district grants, which are simplified local or international grants that clubs put together. The opportunities for that is right now. So it's a competitive opportunity for clubs to put in a grant to do some work in your local community or internationally. They're adjudicated on by a panel, and they're selected on merit. So we try and maximize the full amount of money that comes back into our district. In the last couple of years, we've been successful. The amount on the other side that says World Fund is only available for global grants, which are a minimum $30,000 US, and they need to have 2 Rotary clubs involved as partners, and it's usually overseas work that's done with that money. It gets a bit complicated, so that's as far as I'm going to go. If you want to know anything more about district grants and global grants, I'm happy to answer questions after the meeting. Now, how this all started. This fellow, Arch Clump. Rotary's 12 years old, and he decides at the Atlanta Convention that Rotarians should do something to benefit mankind. And he decided that an endowment program would be a terrific way, and Rotary Foundation was born at that convention. And that's the significance of the convention that they've just held. It's the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Foundation. So it was a special time to be there and hear some great speakers. So the first donation that was given was $26.50 by the Rotary Club of Kansas City. It's since then now built into nearly $1 billion as a trust fund, which allows Rotary to do good work around the world. I'm doing a thumbnail sketch of dates in this. I've skipped out a lot of information. One of the things that's also misunderstood, I believe, is that they created a Paul Harris Award or recognition. And it's simply that any Rotarian or individual or club that donates $1,000 US to the Rotary Foundation, the person that is recognized with a Paul Harris Fellowship. So it's the recognition of $1,000 US, so your friends, your family, work colleagues, anybody can donate $1,000. It doesn't have to be a Rotary Club, and it doesn't have to be a Rotarian. Rotary clubs can handle the paperwork, and you can make a special presentation at your meeting. So it's open to everyone. It's kind of nice to recognize people in the community that have done some good work, and you kick $1,000 into the foundation and recognize them with a Paul Harris Fellow. Group study exchange, Lisa mentioned, is something that was very popular, and it ran from 1965 to 2003. It was a work-related trip internationally for young people, young professionals to go overseas and mix with colleagues of similar vocations in other countries. And usually there was another team from that district would come into our district or a district in Australia as a reciprocal group. There were some untoward things happened in the early 2000s, and the Rotary Foundation decided to withdraw grant funding for it. GSE is still available to clubs and can use their own money or district designated funds to organize group study exchanges. So it's lost its prominence in our district, but it's still available if clubs want to participate in it. The program that it took over from was the one that Lisa stumbled on, is vocational training teams. And that now is a very much focused group, and I have another slide that will describe that to you as well. The big thing that happened with the Rotary Foundation, and you've no doubt all heard about it, was the eradication of polio. So in 1978, Clem Renouf, who was our world president at the time, people in Chicago and around the world thought he was crazy because he came up with the idea that perhaps we could tackle polio and get rid of it. And there was a lot of chat about it, and they really said, well, look, Clem, why don't you go back to Australia? We'll give you the Philippines, go over there and play, and see if you can make an impact on getting rid of polio. Well, surprise, surprise, Clem did. He put some people together, and in 1979, James L. Bomar, who was the world president at the time, administered the first drops of vaccine to a child on the 29th of September. And from there, the wheels started turning. Rotary decided that it was time to get behind this initiative, and in 1985, Rodeo launched Polio Plus. At that time, there were 350,000 cases, or nearly 1,000 cases a day, of polio being registered in the world. So it's a big challenge. Nobody thought it would be done, but Polio and Rotary came together, and in 1988 got some pretty powerful partners that are still with Rotary today. And the comments that I heard at the Atlanta convention from people and representatives from a variety of these organizations, including Bill Gates, recognized the foresight that Rotarians had to think that they could take this on and win it, the persistence, their professionalism, and their undying will to succeed. And that was repeated by many, many of the players and partners at the Atlanta convention. So when you're in a room of 15,000 people, it's kind of neat to sort of feel your chest swell up with pride that we're on the way to win, okay? For the people that like charts and graphs, I put this one in. Today, the story is still the same as this slide shows. In April, there are 5 cases of polio in the world. Nigeria has no longer got any. They had a brief outbreak and moved very quickly and worked with the warring partners in the northeast of the country to finish that epidemic or the spread of polio. Afghanistan and Pakistan are the only 2 countries in the world that have cases of polio in them, and the people are in there every day. One of the things that was very amazing to me is that our RI President John Germ, during the presentation on polio, said that currently to date the partners have spent $1.6 billion to get to where we are today with 5 cases in the world. It's going to take another $1.6 billion to finish the job, because the vaccine, or the virus is still at large in the ground and can strike anywhere. So formulating new vaccines and people and the initiative to go into these places and keep vaccinating, and Australia is one of the places. The Western world believe that the polio is done and finished. It's only 1 plane ride away from infecting someone in Australia, and away we go again. So that's why the amount of money is so important, is to finish the job so that after the end of the year, when there is no polio reported in the world, there's a 3-year period that vaccinating people will still continue until after the 3-year period you can say it's all done. So that's one of the exciting things that came out of it. And during the session, Bill Gates spoke, and what an ambassador that man is. And he's so unassuming that you could hear a pin drop with 15,000 people in the room. So just fascinating. The goal is 1.6 billion. He spoke. Several other representatives from around the world spoke. I was quite proud that the representative from the Canadian government pledged $75 million US to the campaign, followed by other world leaders. And by the time they'd finished, John Germ was able to announce that the amount pledged for the next 3 years is $1.4 billion. So it sounds like they're well on their way, although they said at the end of it that no, all we have to do is collect the money, but they're on the way. Okay, some other things that happen through the foundation is peace Rotary centers. There are 6 of them in the world, and there's a constant lookout in our communities for young people with the talent to go into peace and conflict resolution and attend these universities and become qualified to go into areas around the world. And one of the things that I didn't think about is that the police force is an ideal opportunity to attract these candidates, because they're working with peace and conflict resolution every day of the week. So giving them the opportunity. So you may know some police personnel that may be candidates for Peace Scholars. You can find out more about it on the website, but it's one of the platforms of the 6 areas of focus. Vocational training teams are put together now and funded by Rotary International through global grants. And it's a group of working professionals that go overseas to be trained, or come from overseas to be trained, or a combination of both. So it's quite an open opportunity for people to think about something that would enhance skills for people working in Australia currently, or people from overseas that need skills enhanced and recognized to bring them in. The curricula is wide and varied. There are opportunities in agriculture, science, medicine, and currently our district is offering to fund the bulk of a VTT to use some of our district designated funds. So it's out there. So if you're a club or people in this club know of an opportunity that is focused on a vocation, there's an opportunity to get together, work out a curricula, the professionals that would go on it, and organize another place in the world or bring people in from another place in the world. So that's about as simple as vocational training teams are. It took the place of GSE, but it's totally focused on the education and training of professionals. There's no social element in it as there was in GSE. I talked about Bill and Melinda Gates. They're continuing. He's committed $300 million over the next 3 years from their foundation, matched on a 2-for-1 with Rotarians, which will make $450 million. It's just an unbelievable partnership. For those new Rotarians, you may not be aware, but the foundation is focused on 6 areas of focus: peace and conflict resolution that I've already mentioned, disease prevention, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. To have a global grant, you need to focus on at least one of those areas, and as you're aware, the global grant that our clubs have been jointly capable of are looking at focusing on maternal and child health and basic education and literacy. So it's a 2-pronged attack in the regional communities on the island of Davao. So there's a lot more going to be heard about that. The work's just started on that project, but those are the 6 areas of focus, and it's quite easy for a project to be thought about that can drop into any one of those areas of focus. I'd like to just mention again that we're celebrating 100 years of doing good in the world, and the Rotary Foundation has been a huge benefactor for Rotarians to be able to do good work in the world. I'll finish with the logo, and it's wonderful to be able to say that Rotarians serving humanity segues into Make a Difference, which is Ian Risley's theme for next year. So there's more opportunities to do good work. And as I close, I'd just like to show you a couple of photos. This was in the House of Friendship. They called the ladies, and there were several of them dressed as they are, Georgia Peaches. Then they were all escorted by Southern gentlemen wearing top hats and formal clothes. Apparently in Seoul, the parade to start the House of Friendship lasted for quite some time. This one, if you blinked, you missed it. And I nearly blinked and missed it. There were about 6 women dressed like this, a band, and John and Julie Germ in a Model A Ford. So it was all over and done very quickly, but I put this one up. This is Bill Gates' presentation, and there's a pointer here somewhere in this photo. There it is. That's Bill Gates right there. Okay, this World Congress Center in Atlanta is just amazing. There are 40,000 of us. There are 3 buildings, A, B, and C. We're predominantly in Building B. There was another convention going on in Building A, and we didn't even know it was on. The seating was so amazing, the sound and the picture quality, that you really forgot that you could hardly see the person on the screen presenting. But this is the presentation that Bill Gates did, and you could literally hear a pin drop in that room. It was absolutely silent. It was a wonderful opportunity. So I was about halfway back in this. The next session we got in, when you're with 40,000 people, it's really interesting that you think, oh, we'll go a bit early, but 10,000 other people have had the same idea. So it's, you could never actually get terribly far up the front. So we decided to sit right up the back on elevated seats, which gave us a better view of where the spotlight was on the podium. So that's a little bit of a snapshot. If you have an opportunity to go to Georgia, Atlanta is a wonderful place. I was blown away that the population of Georgia is 10.1 million people. It's the 8th largest city in the U.S. They've worked very hard on developing small business, and there are 6 million Georgians live in Atlanta. So it's a big, big city. Very welcoming. They had Rotary stuff all over the city, welcoming people. One of the things that got me is they had shuttle buses to take people from the various hotels around the city. How am I doing? Just about finished? Done? Gone? Okay. Okay. We knew that they had some buses, and we weren't quite sure how many they'd use, so they printed this supplement that they put in their local paper for everybody in Atlanta to have a copy of it, and they chartered 1,500 buses to haul us around. I couldn't believe there were that many buses in the U.S., let alone in Atlanta, but yeah, 1,500 buses. The largest representation of delegates from a country was Japan. They had 2,000 registered delegates, so big numbers. $52 million was spent directly by attendees on lodging, dining, space rental, recreation, tourism, and it generated $29 million in income for the city. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you found my presentation somewhat informative, and I hope I didn't upset the people who were expecting graphs and charts. Thank you very much.
So we do have a few minutes for questions, and I'm sure particularly I'm really keen about the convention because it sounds like a real buzz. Tony.
I think there's such a, it's a really debatable question. It's a situation that the plight of the Aboriginal, and I'm not an expert, but there seems to be a lot of government money involved in aid for Indigenous or Aboriginal people, and I think it needs to be the basis for a global grant, and President Darcy will attest to this, is that if you want to do something and you want to help Indigenous communities, you need to go in and do a community assessment first, find out what they want. That's the primary thing, and that's the thing that was the key to this current global grant that's being undertaken. Once that's done, you then need, if the project's going to be done here, you need a Rotary Club in Australia, and then you need an international host, which is a Rotary Club outside of Australia. That's what's two of the key requirements, is that you have to have a partnership between two Rotary clubs to make a global grant work. You can't do it on your own, so there's an internationality to it. So it can be done, but you need to go through the processes that are required for a global grant, and the community assessment is the most pivotal thing, is to make the community wishes known before you start. They recounted in one of the sessions I went to that they were on a Pacific island that was quite remote, and this Rotarian had been there, and he went back to his club and he said, look, he said, I think there's an opportunity for a grant here. We should probably put a water system in for these people. They look like they need a water system. So, okay, well, we'll go and scope it out and see what's going on. So I went back to the island, have a chat with the community elders, and they said, we've seen that you've got a bit of a problem with water. We'd like to put a water system in. The guy said, well, yeah, we've got a water system. It's broken down, but we have a water system. So that stopped them for a minute, and he said, well, perhaps we should ask them what they want. Novel idea. So they said, well, what do you guys really want? And the chief came back after they had a discussion and said, what we really want is we want some computers so that our young people can get in touch with the rest of the world through the electronic media, improve their situation, and that's what our community would really like. So they went back, kicked it around, organized a global grant, supplied the computers, the training, fixed their water system as well while they were there, and the community was happy, but they could have wound up with something that they didn't really want, and that's what Rotary International is trying to prevent with the community assessment. You have to go and talk to the community, and they're looking for now official notes taken from meetings or groups of people to find out that you are actually working with the community to meet their desires. So it can be done in the Indigenous communities, but it'll take a lot of work. Has that answered your question? Thank you. And before John asks the question, I'll just let you know that I wore this tie because it's my foundation tie. Last time I was here, I didn't have a tie on, and I got chastised for not wearing one, so well, I'll just share that with John. Exactly.
Do we have further questions? Okay, there's no further questions. I'd like to just thank Doug so much for coming today and speaking about the foundation and helping us understand what happens with the money that we contribute and how that comes back to us. But thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure.
Have a smoothie.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.